Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Legal Education Board Enhanced Lecture Series. This is our third video dealing with tax remedies. So during our previous session, we learned about the principles surrounding the issuance of a formal assessment notice. We also discussed the flow chart that the taxpayer should know if the taxpayer wants to avail of remedies after receiving a formal assessment notice. So, as mentioned during the previous video lecture, I will discuss in this video lecture principles dealing with collection, including, of course, the remedy of the taxpayer if the taxpayer already paid the tax and wants to get back the tax that the taxpayer paid. So, what's the remedy in that? So, these are the matters that will be discussed in this video lecture, together, of course, with the other principles. Okay, let's begin. In terms of collection, you need to take note of the two modes of collecting taxes, namely administrative remedy of collecting the tax and judicial remedy of collecting the tax. If we speak of the admin remedy of collecting the tax, then this is called, or this is made through the issuance of a warrant of distraint or levy. On the other hand, judicial remedy of collecting the tax would entail the filing of a collection case in court. So, these are the two remedies that can be adopted by the government in the collection of taxes. However, you must remember that in administratively collecting the tax, the government must comply with the rule that administrative remedy of collecting the tax must always be preceded by a valid assessment notice. If there's no valid assessment notice, then any warrant of distraint or levy shall likewise be void. So halimbawa, kung ang halimbawa lang walang LOA. Halimbawa, walang LOA. So kung walang LOA, edi syempre void yung assessment notice, di ba? Pag void yung assessment notice, ang ibig sabihin nito, kung nag-issue yung government ng warrant of distraint or levy, void din yung warrant of distraint or levy. Yun yung effect kapag ka ang ang what do you call this? Ang warrant of distraint or levy is ang assessment notice is void, no? So again, I will repeat, if the assessment notice is void, yung warrant of distraint or levy is likewise void. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if we speak of the judicial remedy of collecting taxes, it need not be preceded by a valid assessment notice. In fact, the government can collect taxes even without a valid assessment. So halimbawa, walang in-issue na assessment notice. Okay, walang in-issue na assessment notice. Ang ginawa lang ng government, nag-file ng case sa court. Okay, nag-file lang agad ng case sa court. Pwede ba yon? Pwede bang mag-file ng case sa court even without an assessment notice? The answer is yes, no? So, iisipin natin, di ba ang collection is 3 years from the date of assessment? So, paano magsa-start magbilang yon? Tama? Kung sakaling walang assessment notice. If the government will collect taxes without any assessment notice, then the collection should be done within 3 years from the date prescribed by law for the filing of the return or the actual date of filing if belatedly filed. So within that 3-year period, the government can actually do two things, no? Either to assess or to collect without any assessment. So let's repeat again the prescriptive period that we had discussed in the previous video session. We have 3 years, no? 3-year period to assess, and this will be counted from the date prescribed by law for the filing of a return. And this is also the date to collect the tax even without an assessment notice. If there is an assessment notice, the government must collect within 3 years counted from the date of assessment. On the other hand, if the extraordinary period applies, the government has a period of 10 years counted from discovery of the false or fraudulent return with the intent to evade the tax or the omission to file a return, discovery of the omission, that is, to collect the tax, to assess the tax, but the government has until 5 years, no, from the date of assessment to collect the tax. Take note, The government can also collect without any assessment notice under this extraordinary period. And if the government will collect even without an assessment notice, the government must file the necessary collection case within the 3-year period to assess. Okay? If there is an agreement in writing and an assessment has been issued within the validly extended period to assess, then the government has a period of 5 years from the date of assessment to collect. Okay. Please take note that on the assumption that the taxpayer did not file any protest, I mentioned this no in my previous video session, that if the taxpayer did not file a protest and as a consequence, the assessment notice became final and executory, the CTA can still acquire jurisdiction over the matter even if there's already a final assessment, as long as the issue raised before the Court of Tax Appeals is an issue that will fall within the other matters as administered by the BIR, such as a matter dealing with the right to collect, no, being barred by prescription. So kahit final na yung assessment, kung ang inargue before the CTA is the fact that the right of the government has already been barred by prescription, then that is considered a ground, no, that the CTA could actually acquire jurisdiction over. So this is the principle in the case of CIR versus Hambre. Okay. Now, just for me to, because there are other lecturers which would state that you cannot collect without an assessment, no, it applies only to criminal cases. This is the case that will rebut that particular citation. No? In the 2018 case of CIR versus Filipina Shell, which actually involves not a criminal case, but a collection case, meaning a civil case, the Supreme Court held that the filing of a collection case can be done even without an assessment notice issued. In this particular case, the Supreme Court elucidated the principle that, unlike in summary administrative remedies, the government's power to enforce the collection through judicial action is not conditioned upon a previous valid assessment. Because, as I mentioned earlier, within the regular 3-year period indicated under Section 203 of the NIRC, the government can do two things. First, to issue an assessment, or second, to file a court action. It has to be a court action for collection even without an assessment. So this highlights the principle that if the government adopts judicial remedy of collecting taxes, assessment notice is not necessary. And if I'm talking about cases, I am referring to both criminal case and civil case. However, if the government will resort to administratively collecting the tax, such as through the issuance of a warrant of distraint or levy, then such act of collecting must always be preceded by a valid assessment. Please take note that under a revenue regulation issued in 2025, this year, the Secretary of Finance mentioned the manner on how to serve a warrant of distraint or levy. And in this revenue regulation, it mandated that the warrant of distraint or levy must be personally served upon the delinquent taxpayer. Okay? Dapat sa delinquent taxpayer or his or her authorized representative. Now, if the taxpayer is not present at the time of service, it may be served upon a member of his or her household who must be of legal age with sufficient discretion. Okay? Yan ang requirement ng service pagdating sa warrant of distraint or levy. Now, for corporations, the warrant of distraint or levy must be served to the president, the vice president, the manager, the treasurer, or the comptroller, or any responsible person of the corporation who customarily receives correspondence of the corporation. Yan naman ang mga individuals in charge of receiving the warrant of distraint or levy. However, in cases where the taxpayer refuses to receive the warrant of distraint or levy or is absent from his or her given address, the warrant of distraint or levy shall be constructively served by two credible witnesses who are not BIR employees, preferably, of course, barangay officials, to sign in the acknowledgement receipt portion of the warrant and require a copy of the identification card as proof of the witness and leave the duplicate copy of the warrant at the premises of the taxpayer. Okay. So, copy of the warrant of distraint or levy, which was previously served constructively, shall be sent through registered mail and or electronic mail to the delinquent taxpayer. So, ibig sabihin yan, kung ayaw tanggapin o di kaya wala pa rin doon at walang tatanggap, pwedeng constructive service. At pag constructive service, ano ang gagawin? May mag-serve na hindi BIR employees at sila yung magwe-witness na iniwan doon sa premises ni taxpayer. But other than that, dapat yung copy din isa-serve through registered mail and or electronic mail. Okay, so that's the revenue regulation dealing with service of warrant of distraint or levy. Please take note that in recent jurisprudence, no, meron din tayong mga due process requirement na in-emphasize ng Supreme Court. And take note, this matter shall apply not only with respect to the service of the warrant of distraint or levy, but likewise to formal assessment notices. Dito sa case na to, ang nangyari ay, so yung taxpayer, meron siyang opisina sa SM. Mana soft case to, 2023. So meron siyang opisina sa SM. Instead sana na iserve yung notice doon sa employee nila na nandoon sa opisina nila sa SM, sinerve sa administrator ng SM. So, di ba si SM yung lessor? So, lessee lang sila. Instead na sa empleyado nung lessee, who is the taxpayer, sinerve doon sa administrator nung lessor. So, sinerve sa SM. Okay. And according to the Supreme Court, this is not allowed. No, the service of the notice upon the employee of SM who is not the employee of the taxpayer is not considered a valid service. And there being a violation of the due process requirement, then the assessment notice is void. So ganun ka-importante na malaman kung na-serve siya sa tamang tao, no? Sa tamang individual. Okay. Brain exercises. If we'll take a look at the income tax return for taxable year 2017 and assuming this income tax return was filed on April 1, 2018, until when can the government assess? Okay, the answer is the government can assess until April 15, 2021. No? In this particular case, it's obvious that the return was filed before the last day prescribed by law. So the reckoning date will be the last date prescribed by law, April 15, 2018, count 3 years, April 15, 2021. Now, the second instance is an instance where the return was belatedly filed. So if the return was filed April 30, 2018, it's quite obvious that the reckoning date will be the actual date of filing. So the government has until April 30, 2021 to assess, no? Okay. For VAT return, that's for taxable year 2017, first quarter, particularly, kasi di ba sa VAT return, walang annual VAT return eh. Sa VAT return, quarterly lang yan. So, ang bilang mo ng prescriptive period, quarterly din. Okay. So, dito, kailan ang last date prescribed by law pag quarterly returns ng VAT? Every 25th after the close of the quarter. Laging ganon, no? So, dito, first quarter, ending ng March. So, ibig sabihin nito, 25th after the close of the quarter, which is March, hanggang April 25. So, in this case, since the return was filed before the last date prescribed by law, then we will count it from the last date prescribed by law, April 25, 2017. Dito ha, hindi siya following year kasi nga VAT eh. So, ang sa VAT, the return should be filed within 25 days after the close of the quarter. Okay, so pag titingnan natin dito, April 25, 2020, that's counted from April 25, 2017. Okay. Ito assessment, di ba? Okay, magbigay tayo ng kailan na-send yung assessment sa taxpayer. Okay. Kailan na-send? Dagdagan natin. April 30 sa una, April 1 sa pangalawa, April 1 sa pangatlo. Okay. These are the dates when the assessment was sent to the taxpayer. Let us assume that the taxpayer received this assessment 5 days thereafter. 5 days from the time that it was mailed to the taxpayer on this particular dates. Okay. What is the reckoning date of the 3-year period to collect? It will not be counted from the date of receipt of the assessment. Rather, it will be counted from the date when the assessment has been mailed to the taxpayer. So in which case, under the first instance, the government has until April 30, 2023 to collect the tax. Under the second instance, the government has until April 1, 2024 to collect. And under the third instance, the government has until April 1, 2023 to collect the tax. So, these are the principles which you need to remember when it comes to collection of the tax liability. Likewise, you also need to remember that in cases of collection, through administrative means, that is through the issuance of warrant of distraint or levy, you have to remember that distraint proceedings will not be considered as having been validly begun. Okay? It will not be considered as having been validly begun, not unless the warrant has been served and received by the taxpayer. So dalawa dapat ang mangyari within the 3-year period. Okay? Ang dapat mangyari within the 3-year period ay sinend sa taxpayer at na-receive the taxpayer. Yun ang pagkakaiba between assessment period and collection, through administrative means. Pag assessment, okay na sinend or minil kay taxpayer within the 3-year period to assess. Okay lang na ma-receive ni taxpayer even beyond the regular 3-year period to assess. But when it comes to collection, two things must happen within the 3-year period to collect. And what are the two things that must occur within the 3-year period to collect? Number 1, okay, dapat ma-send. Number 2, dapat ma-receive. So, unlike in assessment, where the receipt may be done even beyond the 3-year period, in collection, the taxpayer must receive the same, but the taxpayer must receive the same within the 3-year period to collect. Okay? So I hope that is clear, Okay. Now, let's take a look at extension of the period to assess and collect again. I-review ulit natin to. Na-discuss natin to earlier. Okay. So if we talk about the waiver of the statute of limitations, I mentioned in my previous discussion that it must contain the date of expiry and the date of execution. Otherwise, the waiver is not valid. The date of acceptance should be made prior to the 3-year period, before the lapse of the 3-year period, but you have to remember that it need not be indicated in the waiver in order for the waiver to be valid. Okay. So we also have the requirement that it has to be signed by the taxpayer or any of the taxpayer's responsible officials. SBA is no longer a requirement, However, for waiver of collection, please take note that the particular tax being assessed must be indicated in the waiver. Okay. Aside from this, you also need to remember that when it comes to waiver of the statute of limitations, it will include both, it will apply to both assessments and collection. Okay. Now, Let's take a look at some brain exercises again, no? Tignan natin tong brain exercises na to just for me to check that you're able to understand the discussions earlier. Okay, tingnan natin. So dito, no, I mentioned earlier na okay na ma-issue yung assessment within the 3-year period. Pag-assessment ang usapan. Pero kapag collection ng usapan, particularly summary administrative means of collecting the tax, both the issuance and the service should be done within the regular 3-year period to collect. So let's assume that we have here taxable year 2013 and the return was filed April 17, 2014 kasi nga the following year. You know that the last day to assess is April 17, 2017. That is 3 years from April 17, 2014. Okay. Let us assume that the government did not issue the assessment on the last day prescribed by law for assessing the tax, but rather issued it on January 17, 2016. Okay. Now, after the issuance of the assessment notice, the government issued a warrant of distraint or levy. This warrant of distraint or levy was issued on January 10, 2019, but was received by the taxpayer on February 2019. Question, is the warrant of distraint or levy valid? Looking at the facts and circumstances of this particular problem, it's quite obvious that we cannot argue that the warrant of distraint or levy is void because the assessment notice is void. Apparently because there are no irregularities which would show that the assessment notice is void, diba? Ang makikita nyo lang dito ay the fact that the assessment notice was issued within the 3-year period. So, hindi yan pwedeng gamitin na argument. However, second aspect na titignan na natin, okay, prescribed na ba? Tama? Nag-prescribe na ba yung period to collect? Okay. Under the law, 3 years to collect counted from the date of assessment. O dito, ang date of assessment mo, January 17, 2016. So kung bibilangin natin, the government has until January 17, 2019 to collect. Okay. Na-issue naman yung warrant of distraint or levy within that period, no? That is until January 16, 2019. But sadly, it was received by the taxpayer beyond that period. So, will it result to the nullity of the warrant of distraint or levy? The answer is yes, because as I mentioned repeatedly earlier, no, both the issuance and the service must be done within the regular 3-year period to collect, which did not happen in this case. While the issuance was made within the 3-year period, it was received by the taxpayer beyond the 3-year period. Therefore, the warrant of distraint or levy is void. Okay? Now, let us talk about the suspension of the running of the prescriptive period. Okay, I mentioned this as well when we were discussing about the differences between a request for reconsideration and a request for reinvestigation. Okay, you have to remember time and again that if the taxpayer filed a request for reinvestigation and the request for reinvestigation has been granted by the BIR, then the 3-year period to collect will be tolled, no? Hihinto. Okay. So, paano yung nangyayari? O, tingnan natin yung problem earlier, Dito sa problem natin dito, merong na-issue na assessment notice, January 17, 2016. Tama? Okay. Nag-file ng protest. Sabihin mo na within 30 days. Okay. Dapat within 30 days para hindi maging final. Within 30 days, nag-file siya ng protest. Okay. Grinant yung request for reinvestigation noong January 17, 2017. Sabihin, 1 year thereafter. So, pag grinant ang request for reinvestigation, ang ibig sabihin nun, titingnan ulit nila yung mga dokumento na sinubmit ng taxpayer. Okay. So, dahil tinignan ulit nila yung dokumento, nire-review nila, naintindihan, nagre-review sila, nire-review nila yung mga documents, nag-issue ulit ng panibagong assessment notice. Okay. Yung panibagong assessment notice, in-issue, di ba? Nag-grant 2017, di ba? January 17, 2017, doon grinant. So doon nag-audit ulit. May panibago ulit na assessment notice na in-issue noong January 17, 2018. Okay, 2018. Hanggang kailan pwedeng mag-issue ng warrant of distraint or levy yung government? Okay. Kung titingnan natin dito, di ba, na-discuss natin kanina hanggang January 17, 2019, dapat, tama? Pero dito ang pinagkaiba, merong final na request for reinvestigation at nag-grant. At nag-grant. Okay. So ano ulit ang effect ng pag-grant? Hihinto yung period. So noong January 17, 2017, huminto yung 3-year period. So hihinto siyang mag-run. Okay? Kailan na lang ulit magsisimulang magbilang? Magsisimula na lang ulit magbilang nung may panibago ng assessment nung January 17, 2018. So, dun sa 3 taon, ubos na yung 1 taon, tama? That's January 17, 2016 to January 17, 2017, kung kailan nag-grant yung request for reinvestigation. May 1 taon na naubos. Okay. Ilang taon na lang natitira? 2. Kailan ulit magsisimulang magbilang? Pag may panibago ng assessment notice at nangyari yon noong January 17, 2018. So in this case, the government has until January 17, 2020 to issue a warrant of distraint or levy. Yaan ang effect ng filing of a request for reinvestigation which has been granted by the CIR. Now, take note that the mere fact that there has been a petition for review filed before the CTA will not immediately restrain the collection of the tax. Okay? In fact, under Section 218 of the NIRC, the it provides that no court shall have the authority to grant an injunction to restrain the collection of any internal revenue tax. Take note that this rule on no injunction will apply to internal revenue taxes. So, income tax, VAT, percentage tax, etc. It will not apply to real property tax and local taxes, primarily because these are not taxes imposed under the NIRC. So, pagka yung taxes na yun ay imposed under the NIRC, mag-a-apply to. So, hindi ka pwedeng mag-file ng injunction case sa RTC in order to restrain the BIR from collecting the tax. Kung ayaw nyong makolekta, kasi alam nyong may mali doon sa procedure, no? So, ang gagawin mo dapat para sa kliyente mo is to file a petition for review before the Court of Tax Appeals. Because only the Court of Tax Appeals has the authority to issue a writ of injunction in order to restrain the collection of the tax. And under RA 9282, the CTA can issue a writ of injunction to restrain the collection of the tax if the CTA can see that the collection of the tax is prejudicial to the interest of the taxpayer and or the government. Meaning, pwede naman may injunction, di ba? Pag pinag-combine mo tong 218 at saka yung pag pinag-combine mo yung 218 at saka yung provision ng 9282, pwede namang may writ of injunction. Okay? Ang hindi lang pwede, RTC ang mag-issue. Ang dapat mag-issue ng writ of injunction is the CTA. Okay. Now, ang CTA, pagka nag-issue siya ng writ of injunction, the CTA can do 2 things. Una, require the taxpayer to post a bond or deposit an amount not double the amount of tax to be collected. Yun yung pwedeng i-require ni CTA. Bakit ko sinabing pwedeng i-require? Because in several jurisprudential tenets, sinabi naman ng Korte Suprema na may mga instances na hindi na kailangan ng deposit or bond requirement. And what are these instances? Kapag kayong period to collect has already prescribed, hindi mo na kailangan mag-bond or deposit. Okay, number 2, if there has been a violation of due process, so may patent violation of law, hindi na kailangang mag-bond requirement or deposit requirement. So, ito yung mga instances where the deposit or the bond requirement can actually be dispensed with. Okay. Ngayon, yan yung collection through civil, di ba? Tignan naman natin, pwede bang mangolekta ng tax through a criminal case? And the answer is yes, pwede. Now, whenever the government would file a criminal case, assuming no criminal case for tax evasion, that already includes the civil liability. Okay? Kasama ang civil liability. Question, can the government file a criminal case even without an assessment notice? The answer is yes. No, the answer is in the affirmative. Pwedeng mag-file ng criminal case kahit walang assessment notice. Ungab versus Husiyan na case. Okay. Ngayon, pangalawa, pagka-criminal cases, ang prescriptive period ba ay 10 years? Okay, answer no. Yung 10-year period will apply to assessments di ba? Sa 203. Pag criminal case ang usapan, the criminal case, any criminal case at that, no, whatever type or nature, must be filed within 5 years. So, ang prescriptive period to file a criminal case ay 5 years. But take note, the 5-year period will be reckoned from the commission of the violation of the law, or if it's not discovered at the time of the commission, then it will be from the time of discovery. And, naka-ready ang and so dapat dalawa mangyayari. And the institution of judicial proceedings for its investigation or punishment. Take note, dito, it's obvious that hindi, hindi, hindi enough, no? Na merong discovery of the violation. Hindi enough. Hindi magsa-start magbilang yung 5-year period by the discovery alone. Kailangan merong institution of judicial proceedings bago tatakbo yung 5-year prescriptive period. Okay. And under the case of Lim versus CA, the Supreme Court held that institution of judicial proceedings shall mean the filing of an affidavit complaint before the office of the prosecutor. Okay. So pag na-file na yung affidavit complaint sa office of the prosecutor, doon pa lang magbibilang yung 5-year period. Okay, ngayon. 2 cases. Pero actually paghaluin na natin. Paano kung ganito? Na-discover yung crime 2000. Discover yung crime 2000. Nakita na, hindi siya nagde-declare ng income. Year 2000. After ma-discover yung crime ng year 2000, walang ginawa. Okay. So, nag-file ngayon ng affidavit complaint noong 2020. Okay. So, na-discover noong 2000, nag-file ng affidavit complaint before the office of the prosecutor, 2020 na. Meaning, 20 years had already lapsed, no, bago nag-file ng affidavit complaint. And then the information was filed in court in 2024. Question, is the criminal case barred by prescription? Okay. The answer is no. Why not? Kasi, nung na-discover yung crime noong 2000, hindi pa siya nag-start magbilang. Tama? Nag-start lang siya magbilang noong 2020, which is the year when the affidavit complaint has been filed before the office of the city prosecutor. So, nung nag-file noong 2020, doon pa lang nag-start magbilang. Kailan na-file yung information sa court? 2024. Tama? 2024. And that's the reason why it's not yet barred by prescription. The story would have been different kung halimbawa mo na i-file yung affidavit complaint, no? Nung 2021. Okay? Nung 2021 na i-file, nung 2020, no? Kung na-i-file yung affidavit complaint nung 2020, okay? And then, na-file yung case, no? Ng 2026 pa lang. Yung information, mai-file pa lang yung information, 2026. More than 5 years na yan. Tama? Kung halimbawa mo naman, yung affidavit complaint, final sa office of the prosecutor, 2018. 18. Okay. And then yung information was filed in court 2025 o 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 7 years had lapsed from the time of the filing of an affidavit complaint up to the filing of an information in court. So yan, barred by prescription yung criminal case. So those are the principles which you need to remember about criminal cases. Okay. Ihalo na rin natin ngayon ang or exclusive original jurisdiction ng CTA. Okay. in basically studying exclusive original jurisdiction of the CTA, you need to remember that the CTA has jurisdiction over over collection, exclusive original jurisdiction over collection and criminal cases. Okay? So, kailan nag-a-acquire ng jurisdiction sa criminal cases ang criminal and collection cases ang CTA, yung original jurisdiction hindi appellate. Kasi yung na-discuss natin previously, appellate yun di ba? Appellate, yung decisions or inactions of the CIR, appellate jurisdiction yan. Pag-usapan natin ngayon yung original jurisdiction. Kapag exclusive original jurisdiction, in terms of collection cases, collection case dapat to, the CTA will acquire jurisdiction only when there is a final and executory assessment. And the principal amount of tax, exclusive of course of interest and surcharge, will be at least 1 million pesos. So dalawa ang dapat mangyari, no, in order for the CTA to acquire exclusive original jurisdiction. Una, dapat final and executory yung assessment. Pangalawa, dapat yung principal amount is at least 1 million pesos. Now, pag hindi pa final yung assessment, no, then the regular courts will acquire jurisdiction, either the MTC or the RTC. Kung wala ding assessment notice pa, tas nangongolekta na, o di obviously either MTC or RTC will acquire jurisdiction depending on the jurisdictional amount. Pag yung amount to be collected is 2 million or less, MTC will acquire jurisdiction. Pag more than 2 million, RTC will acquire exclusive original jurisdiction. Now, let's take a look at these examples, no? So, ang kinokolekta na tax ay 1 million, but the assessment is not yet final. Saan ifa-file yung collection case? Obviously, ifa-file dapat yan sa MTC kasi nga hindi pa final yung assessment. And since the jurisdictional amount falls within MTC, then sa MTC ifa-file. Pagdating naman sa second instance, no, na 1 million yung amount and then the assessment is already final and executory, quite obviously, CTA will acquire jurisdiction over the same because the assessment is now final and executory and the amount of the principal amount of tax, no, to be collected is 1 million pesos. For criminal cases, the CTA will acquire exclusive original jurisdiction if the principal amount of tax to be collected is at least 1 million. Take note, pag criminal case, hindi kailangan na final na yung assessment notice. Hindi kailangan. Okay. Basta yung kukolektahing tax, at least 1 million, okay na. Sa CTA na yan. Okay? Pag criminal case. Okay, ngayon tanong, paano kung undetermined yung amount? Okay, then the regular court shall acquire jurisdiction and the jurisdiction shall actually depend on the imposable penalty. If the amount is less than 1 million, ganun din, MTC or RTC depending on the imposable penalty. 6 years or less sa MTC yan ifa-file. More than 6 years sa RTC ifa-file yung criminal case. Okay? So, those are the exclusive original jurisdiction of the CTA. Now, let's talk about the government's remedy. Okay. In your bar syllabus, you can see this list of government's remedy. The first is tax lien. Tax lien would mean that the unsettled amount of tax liability will constitute a lien over the taxpayer's liability. Kasi hodang connected yan sa negosyo niya or hindi. No? Basta property siya ng taxpayer, kahit related siya dun sa business or hindi, the unsettled liability will constitute a lien over the properties of the taxpayer. That's called tax lien. And these properties can be sold at a public auction in order to settle the taxpayer's liability. Okay. Second is distraint or levy, and we had already discussed that earlier. This is one of the administrative remedies of collecting the tax. Another administrative remedy of collecting the tax is forfeiture of real property, where real properties will be used to settle the obligation. And finally, the suspension of business. This applies in cases of VAT-registered taxpayers, no? The government can issue closure orders in cases when the government cannot collect the VAT liability or there's a failure to issue VAT invoices. Ayan, ground yan to close the business. Pag nag-mission order ang BIR, tas nakita na may mga violations pagdating sa mga VAT-registered entities, pwedeng i-close yung business. Okay, so these are the administrative remedies available to the government. Of course, the judicial remedies available to the government is the filing of a civil case or a criminal case. With respect to taxpayers' liability, we had already discussed the remedy of the taxpayer of filing a protest in cases when the taxpayer receives an assessment notice. Yun ang remedy ni taxpayer. Okay. Pag naman nakabayad na si taxpayer at alam niyang mali pa rin ang pagkakabayad niya, ang remedy ni taxpayer is to file a refund. Gaya ang tanong, ma'am, pwede bang sabay yung protest and refund? Pwede. Pwede. Allowed yun. No? Allowed yun. Ang importante lang, yung refund is filed within the prescriptive period provided under the law. Pero pwede actually magsabay yung refund and then protest. Okay. Ngayon, dito sa angle na to on refund, no, I think it's better for us to compare refunds under Section 112 and 229 because the problems in the bar exam will not actually indicate what provision are you going to apply. So you have to determine on your own whether Section 112 is applicable or Section 229. So let's take a look at the differences and similarities between Section 112 and 229. Okay. If the problem involves unutilized input VAT, no? Kung ang nire-refund na naka-mention doon sa problem ay unutilized input VAT, then you need to apply Section 112. Okay? Pag naman ang nakasulat ay overpayment of VAT, erroneously paid VAT, not VAT ha, tax, overpaid tax, erroneously paid tax, illegally paid tax, or payment of penalties not authorized under the law, then the governing provision is Section 229. Ngayon ang tanong, pag nag-overpay ka ng VAT, but the VAT is not attributable to a zero-rated transaction, pwede ba siyang refund under 112? Hindi pwede. Hindi pwede. Kasi under Section 112, the unutilized VAT must be attributable to a zero-rated transaction. Ang sabi ko nga, di ba? Hindi siya attributable to zero-rated. Kumbaga, ang transaction niya is subject to 12% VAT. Okay. Pwede ba siyang refund under 229? Ang sagot ulit, hindi po pwede. No? Kasi, ang requirement ng batas, kapag ka may unutilized input VAT at hindi yan attributable to a zero-rated transaction, the remedy of the taxpayer is to carry it over to the next succeeding taxable periods until it is fully consumed. Pwede na lang niyang i-refund yung unutilized input VAT kapag nagsara na siya. So, upon cessation of the business operations, that's the only way that the unutilized input VAT attributable to a 12% transaction will be subject of a refund. But if hindi pa magsasara, carry over lang ng carry over. So, take note that 229 does not cover unutilized input VAT attributable to 12% transactions. Okay? Now, with respect to the requirement as to attributability of transactions, there's no requirement under 229, but there's a requirement under 112. The taxpayer must be engaged in zero-rated or effectively zero-rated transaction, primarily because the input VAT should be attributable to these transactions. Okay? And since we are talking about input VAT, Section 112 mandates that the taxpayer obviously must be VAT registered kasi wala yung input VAT kung ay di siya VAT registered, di ba? But there's no requirement as to VAT registration when it comes to Section 229. With respect to the filing of a refund, we already discussed 112, no? And I mentioned that under 112, the period to file a refund is 2 years from the close of the taxable quarter when the sales were made. We even do some exercises dealing with counts, diba? How to count the period. But when it comes to Section 229, no, it's still 2 years. Parehas naman silang 2 years, but the reckoning date is different. This one is 2 years from the date of payment. Okay. Date of payment should be regardless of any supervening event. Okay? Any supervening event. Ibig sabihin, pag may nag-file ng amended return na walang bayad dun sa amended return, ha? Pag nag-file ng amended return, hindi yun magsisimula ulit magbilang ng 2 years, no? Kasi that's a supervening event. And therefore, it will not affect the reckoning date of the 2-year period. Okay. Also, take note that under the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, refunds under Section 229 can be done within 2 years, no, from the date of dissolution. Okay, if the corporation is no longer a going concern. So pag nagsara na yung korporasyon, yung 2-year period to file a refund will not be counted from the date of payment of the tax, but rather from the date of dissolution. Okay. Under the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, a taxpayer, obviously a corporation, which cannot carry over excess income tax credit due to dissolution or cessation of business, must file an application for refund of any unutilized excess income tax credit. And in doing so, no, the taxpayer must file the application for refund within 2 years from the date of cessation or dissolution of the business. The BIR has 2 years to decide on the said application. Again, magfa-file si taxpayer within 2 years, tama? Within 2 years from the date of dissolution. Si BIR din, meron din siyang 2 years from the date of the dissolution to decide on the application for refund. So, dalawang nangyayari dyan. Una, magfa-file siya ng application. Pangalawa, mag-decide si BIR. Hindi siya pwedeng mag-decide outside the 2-year period after the outside the 2-year period counted from the date of dissolution. Okay? Minsan, ang inisip ko dito, no, parang, paano kung nag-file siya nung yung taxpayer nung last day? Yun din yung period ni BIR to decide, di ba? So, wala pa yan sa revenue regulations. Probably, they will issue revenue regulations dealing with those instances once they had already encountered it. But just remember that the taxpayer must file the application for refund within 2 years, no, from the dissolution. And the BIR will also have 2 years from the dissolution to act on the claim for refund. Okay. Now, what is the concept of date of payment? The concept of date of payment shall refer to the date of filing of the final adjustment return or the annual income tax return. So even if, let's assume that the tax has been paid on a quarterly basis, no? Kunwari, kasi di ba may quarterly income tax return, binayaran quarterly. Kahit binayaran yan quarterly, yung concept pa rin ng date of payment will not be the date when the tax has been actually paid, but rather it will be counted from the date of filing of the final adjustment return. Kahit hindi siya binayaran nung date na yon. Okay? So, halimbawa, nagbayad siya first quarter ng 10 million. Nagbayad siya second quarter ng another 10 million. Third quarter, nakita may losses na. Fourth quarter, final April 15, 2025. Take note, binayaran siya first quarter, second quarter, tama? But, the 2-year period will not be reckoned from the date of payment of that quarterly income taxes. It will be filed from, reckoned from, the 2-year period will be reckoned from the date of filing of the final adjustment return, which is April 15, 2025. Meaning, the taxpayer has until April 15, 2027 to file an application for refund. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, why? In the case of CIR versus TMX sales, and CIR versus ACRA investments, the Supreme Court highlighted the principle that the filing of quarterly payments is provisional in nature. So the final amount of tax liability will be determined only upon the filing of the final adjustment return or annual income tax return. And this is the reason why the 2-year period to file a refund will be counted from the date of filing of the final adjustment return. This principle applies also with respect to the withholding taxes withheld from the income of the taxpayer and remitted on a monthly basis. Although the same has been remitted by the withholding agent on a monthly basis, the 2-year period to file a refund will still be counted from the date of filing of the final adjustment return. Okay? But final withholding taxes work differently, no? Kasi pag sinabi nating final withholding tax, pag winithhold na yung tax at niremit sa BIR, that will already extinguish the taxpayer's liability. Therefore, no, since with finality na, yung pag winithhold at niremit with finality na yon, the 2-year period to file a refund for final withholding taxes will be counted from the date of actual remittance because that is the date when the liability has been finally determined. Please remember these principles. In the bar exams, typically, the problem will just involve income taxes. Okay, now, since we now know the 2-year period, no, you have to remember that this 2-year period applies to administrative claims for refund only. Yung 2-year period under Section 112, para lang yon sa admin claim for refund. And I am referring to the written claim for refund filed before the CIR. Under Section 229, the 2-year period likewise applies to admin claim for refund, meaning the written claim for refund filed before the CIR. Okay? Laging ganon. Okay? Kasi, yung judicial claim for refund, no, both with respect to both provisions, no, it can be filed even beyond the 2-year period. Yung judicial claim for refund under 112, pwede ma-file outside the 2-year period. Yung judicial claim for refund under Section 229, pwedeng ma-file beyond the 2-year period. Understood? Okay. Okay, may in-update ako ha. Kasi nagbago-bago ang rules class eh. Yung rules sa train law, nag-iba na siya nung nilatag na yung EOPTA. Okay, tapos may dinagdag under create more. So, pabago-bago. Dito, sa EOPTA na to, which is the updated version, ang similarity between Section 229 and 112 is the fact that inaction may be treated as an implied denial under both sections. And take note of the verb that I used, no? I used the linking verb may. Okay. Bakit may? Kasi under the law, in cases of inaction, the taxpayer has 2 options. Number 1, to treat the inaction as an implied denial and therefore file the necessary petition for review before the CTA within 30 days after the lapse of the period to decide. Or number 2, await for the decision. Parang protest, no? Yung laskona, parang ganun na siya. Sa 112, ganun din, no? Dalawa din ang options. Either to treat the inaction as an implied denial, no? And therefore file the petition for review within 30 days after the lapse of the period to decide, or to wait for the decision and then just file the necessary appeal after the receipt of the decision. So those are the 2 options of the taxpayer. Wait. Ang pagkakaiba lang nila is period to decide. The period to decide granted to the CIR under Section 112 is 90 days. 90 days from the submission of the complete documents necessary to act on the refund. Sa 229, the period to decide is 180 days. No, 180. Yun yung pagkakaiba lang naman. Period to decide. But in both instances, inaction may be treated as an implied denial because the taxpayer has 2 possible options under both sections. Again, I will repeat, magkaiba ang period to decide. Sa 112, CIR has 90 days to decide. Sa 229, CIR has 180 days to decide. Okay. Now, wala na yung if the period is about to expire, wala nang ganun ha. Kasi yung dati kasi yung 2-year period will apply to both admin claim and judicial claim for refund. Hindi na yon applicable ngayon. Kung nakabasa kayo ng decision na ganon, hindi na yan applicable. Okay? Kaya tinanggal ko kanina. Hindi na yan applicable. Kasi yung 2-year period will apply only to admin claim for refund. And that, yun yung, kasi under 229 dati, ganon eh. yung both admin and judicial should be filed within that 2-year period. Yun yung dating rule sa 229. Pero nabago na nga sa IOPTA. Yung 2-year period will apply only with respect to the admin claim for refund. With that being said, the judicial claim for refund should be filed within 30 days from the receipt of the decision, kung hinintay yung decision, or 30 days from the lapse of the 180-day period. On the other hand, when it comes to Section 112, the judicial claim for refund must be filed within 30 days from the receipt of the decision, pag naghintay nga ulit, or 30 days from the lapse of the 90-day period if the taxpayer will treat the inaction as an implied denial. So in which case, you need to remember that the judicial claim for refund in both instances, no, both under Section 112 and 229, may be filed even beyond the 2-year period. Okay. You need to remember that this 30-day period to file an appeal to the CTA after an adverse decision is jurisdictional. If the petition for review has been filed outside the said 30-day period, then it will result to the dismissal of the petition for review or the judicial claim for refund. The proper party to file an application for refund under Section 229 is the statutory taxpayer. However, by jurisprudence, CIR versus Smart Communications, the withholding agent shall likewise have the authority to file a claim for refund with respect to the withholding taxes that the withholding agent is required to withhold. Okay? So, yan yung exception to the rule na statutory taxpayer lang ang pwedeng mag-file ng claim for refund. Under Section 112, the taxpayer engaged in a zero-rated transaction is the proper party to file a claim for refund. Take note that if the taxpayer is the purchaser in this particular instance, it will be allowed kasi nga siya naman yung merong unutilized input VAT. Okay. Basta yung input VAT is attributable to zero-rated or effectively zero-rated transaction. If the taxpayer is likewise exempt from both direct or indirect taxes, the taxpayer who happens to be the purchaser can also file a claim for refund under Section 112. Now, as we had discussed in our session about value-added tax, in order for a refund under Section 112 to prosper, it is necessary that there has to be compliance with the invoicing requirements. Yung dapat nakastamp yung word zero-rated dun sa resibo, di ba? Requirement yun eh. Pag hindi, i-deny yung refund. When it comes to Section 229, walang invoicing requirements. Okay? Kailangan lang ma-prove, of course, may excess payments, may overpayment, that's it. Hindi kailangan mag-comply sa any of invoicing, any type of invoicing requirement. Okay. So, let me emphasize some provisions since we are done with comparison, let's just emphasize some provisions which you need to remember when it comes to refunds of overpaid tax, illegally paid tax, or erroneously paid tax. Okay, number 1. You need to remember that the filing of a written claim for refund with the commissioner is mandatory before the filing of a petition for review before the CTA. Simply put, bago mag-file ng judicial claim for refund, dapat mag-file muna ng admin claim for refund. Okay. The filing of a written claim for refund with the commissioner is not required if the overpayment is shown on the face of the return. Otherwise, kailangan talagang merong written claim for refund muna.